not this, why don't you do the one like the last one, that was successful. And we went on. And there was a gentleman who used to always sit in those meetings who had nothing to do with films. He was a construction company owner, had nothing to do with cinema. And he used to come and sit in the meetings, he's Aziz's friend. And he turned down and said, I like to produce it. And we said, but you make buildings. He said, but you guys are so good. I love what you do. And I'd like to produce it. He said, you lose money. He said, it's all right to lose money on you. And I think it just came across to us, if there is someone who can lose money on us, let's try losing ourselves. And you say, okay, let's just go and make the films nobody else wants to make. So it kind of started off like that. But lately, yes, I think my production company takes care of, try to make a writer film. We keep it very simple, try and earn some money, and then actually make the films that nobody else wants to make, but you want to tell the story.
Brad, I think you will appreciate, and I'm hoping Shahrukh will back me up here, that the Indian film industry is really a different kind of beast in that it's one of the few cinemas that has succeeded in resisting the massive influence and the onslaught, if you like, of Hollywood. American movies do very well in India, but we have a very vibrant film industry, and the predominant film industry is the Indian movie industry. Shahrukh, is there any fear of that changing?
I've said it for the last 10 years. If we don't hone up in a few areas, and I'd say it again, especially in script writing, screenplay, marketing, and professionalism, and technology. If these 5 areas, we don't quickly adapt ourselves to the way not only the studios, but indie filmmakers, small producers make films in Hollywood, we would get taken over by Hollywood. Because there's no denying the fact. They make some wonderful films, they have wonderful international stars. The language is becoming less and less of a barrier. With even more digital platforms, the access to them, the comparison is now right out there. I mean, you just have to have a telephone to be able to see any film that you wanted to see. It's not like going down to the embassy to see the French film or an American film when you were young.
Right.
So I think if we do not take on some of the wonderful things that Hollywood has done before and learn from them, adapt them here, especially the professionalism part and technology, there is a big fear.
Oh, that's interesting to hear, because from afar, I mean, we have great respect because you do have your own film language, you have your own gestalt that's created, it's homegrown, and enjoyed over there. So it's really interesting to hear about at least even the technology side. It makes sense. It just would have never occurred to me.
Yeah, because we have such wonderful stories here to tell, but we're not telling them in the way that I think we get really happy just being a fad sometimes. That old Indian film, singing, dancing, and everybody enjoys it all over the world. But if we are able to understand the language Hollywood and the Western cinema speaks in, and not change our own way of presenting a film. Right. I mean, singing and dancing has to stay, so that we keep Brad away from Bollywood. Otherwise, but I think if we are able to somehow get that writing part and technology in, it's important. I think it's extremely important. I think.
I find it really interesting. Different cultures now cross-pollinating ideas and styles, and we just had a great experience producing a film, another Netflix film called Okja, with Bong Joon-ho, the South Korean director, and it just became something we would never be able to create because it's from his mind, and we're definitely seeking out more of those experiences, and I think we're going to see that more in the global community of filmmaking. That's going to be it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
We're going to, at this point, take a look at another clip from War Machine, and then I'm going to bring out another guest.
Sean's the writer from Rolling Stone. He's been doing that profile piece on you. He's going to be tagging along for a couple days.
Thanks for having me, sir. It's a real privilege.
Rolling Stone.
Yes, sir.
Just make sure I'm on the cover.
Well, it's between you and Lady Gaga, sir.
Well, put me in the heart-shaped bathtub with her. Rose petals. Happy to share.
Brad, stop joking.
Deadly serious, son. Put me on the cover.
Okay, we're very lucky to have with us today the director of War Machine, David Michaud.
Come on, bud.
All the best for you.
Thank you.
And writer.
Thanks for having me. I'm the surprise
You're the
guest.
surprise. You're the
I'm the
surprise
surprise guest.
Yes, you are. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah.
Brad, David, why was Netflix the right partner for War Machine? Brad, you've said that without a delivery system like Netflix, this movie wouldn't have got made, or if it did get made, it would have been at 1/6 the budget only. So why was Netflix the right partner?
Yeah, I may have exaggerated, maybe 1/3, but it wouldn't have been to the scope and scale. It's because the way the studio system is, the business model of the studio system now in Hollywood, it just can't support risky films like this, films at this budget, certainly, because of prints and advertising being so high and the ancillary costs being so high. They're just not getting made right now. So for me, the beauty of Netflix or a delivery system like Netflix for the film viewer is now more films are getting made. More interesting filmmakers are getting to the plate, telling their stories, which means a greater variety of films for us to view. And so for me, it's this kind of renegade new resurgence in filmmaking that I grew up on from mainly the 70s, even the early 60s. And it's a really exciting time for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting for me because, I made my first film, Animal Kingdom, came out in 2010. Mm-hmm. I went to film school back in the mid-90s, and it was right at that time. It was after Quentin Tarantino's first couple of movies. There was a whole bunch of guys like him and Paul Thomas Anderson and David O. Russell and Wes Anderson and David Fincher. And they were all making what looked like really bold, unusual, original movies inside the studio system. And then my first movie came out in 2010, and it had all gone away. The studios weren't making the kinds of movies that I thought I wanted to make, and I wasn't sure how I was ever going to get to make them. And then suddenly, this Netflix window opened for me that was kind of extraordinary. I mean, War Machine is exactly that kind of movie that it's bold, it's complex, but it's wild. It doesn't feel to me like how the movies feel. It's exactly the kind of movie that the traditional Hollywood studios aren't really making anymore. It's a war film, so it was never going to be cheap to make. And so I just feel lucky that I'm that, I didn't waste my time going to film school all those years ago.
Shahrukh, in a market like India, how do you feel has Netflix impacted or will perhaps energize the existing landscape?
Exactly. This way that we're always going to be tied down by this, cinema release films, which have to be of a certain setup for them to get back the audience that you want, and the weekend collections, the weekly collections, the monthly collections. I think Netflix will offer you an opportunity that this story needs to be told. It will be successful also, inshallah. But somewhere it doesn't have the pegs that are expected of a film that should come in a theater and take over the weekend. That's how art will grow, and 100% the business will follow. So I think Netflix in the next coming years, 5 years, giving opportunities to so many directors. And I think like in India, I find every household has a singer.
Yeah.
I think every household has a filmmaker. We've been making films for so long. Everybody wants to make a film.
Sure.
And I think this is just the right time for all of them to come on board, have opportunities with companies like Netflix and say, okay, I don't need anybody else. I just need this platform, have the freedom, and get a little bit of money to make a film. Everybody's not going to be wanting to make that big film, but just have the freedom. I think the most important
so it would democratize the filmmaking process then?
Absolutely. Like you said, it's not a film by committee. It's not a set of people telling you what to do. Just come and make your film. And the best of films, I think, in the world were initially made like that. The sequels are made by the committees. So I guess,
There's also something else about releasing the film through Netflix. So many of our films are often categorized by opening weekend, by performance of opening weekend. And it's a really unfair jury of a film. Longevity is the true test of a film. Is it still playing? Does it still speak to an audience 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road? And I've seen many good films be dubbed failures that and some have been found later in time, and some haven't. Some go away. And I think this is removing, I'm interested to see, removing that aspect, what that does to at least a film's reputation in the early days.
Right. War Machine is based on Michael Hastings' book, The Operators, about General Stanley McChrystal's short and controversial stint during the US invasion of Afghanistan. Brad, you've said that you could identify with the character of the general because he got caught in the trap of hubris, just like a movie star, where you start to believe, and I'm quoting you, your own stink. Shahrukh, you joked about being a self-absorbed movie star at the recent TED Talk that you gave. Do you see self-absorption as a trap that movie stars often fall into? And how then do you keep it real?
Well, first I'll say, you know, the hubris conversation, I was trying to correlate that to the film in the sense that any mistakes I've made is when you know, I think I have it figured out. And it seems that any mistakes we've made as a country is when we think we have all the answers. And it was that hubris that one has to question for oneself, for any kind of personal evolution, but also you know, what I think we need to constantly be looking at in ourselves as a country to come up with another solution than what we've been doing.
I mean, I think, yeah, a certain amount of self-absorption is necessary for any creative person. You know, you're not a machine, war or otherwise, where you're going to just be following what people think should be done. You have to have a free-thinking head. You have to have, you know, poems of your own in your head. You've got to be telling stories that you want, whichever, paintings, whatever. So I think a bit of self-absorption, it seems like it, mainly because, you know, you'd like to say your idea or your thought or your belief or live by it. It can seem self-absorbed, but having said that, I think any kind of self-absorption will lead to eventual, you know, you will be vanquished finally if you're just going to be self-absorbed in a obsessive way. I think a little bit of it is required to be individualistic. Beyond that, no. I think I would really honestly say, having worked with filmmakers all around the country, writers, directors, wonderful actors, meeting them, I don't think they're just one or two like that. I don't think you have too many of them. But it's a good story to talk about, that you're self-obsessed and you're self-absorbed, and that's how movie stars are, you're mad. But I don't think most people are. It's a cliche. I think more often than not, people are wanting to share ideas. You know, you meet someone, and there's always be sharing of ideas and acceptance of somebody's ideas. Otherwise, a director-actor can't work together. Sure. You know, like you said in the very beginning, I'm in your hands. I like to be with people who I have faith in as friends, and you know, and his ideas. He's speaking his language. That really requires a lack of self-absorption. I believe an actor has to be the person who loves himself the least, not the one who loves. For a stardom, yeah, you need to love yourself. So Brad and me are both. We love ourselves the least and love ourselves the most because we're stars and good actors, yeah, sir.
Brad, Shahrukh, both of you have been at the forefront of major technological changes and advancements in the movie business. I suppose it's only fitting to ask all three of you, as we wrap this up, what are the big foreseeable changes you predict over the next 10 years in the entertainment business?
Whew, I don't pretend to know. I don't, you know, I think it is a very, very interesting time, and things are moving very, very fast. We're getting more connected. We're viewing certainly our entertainment in much different ways. I don't know. I usually I live by calling the audible, as we say. We make those calls, you know, at the moment. But I couldn't say. I couldn't say. You?
I would say in an Indian context more, because I think the industry is still kind of newer compared to the West. Yeah, so yeah, technology is going to make a huge play. You know, if you see a wonderful film like Bahubali, and those are the cinema, you know, the event films, so to say, our own superheroes. Right. I think we still haven't made them enough, so they will make a big foray into it. And with platforms like Netflix, and suddenly in the last 10 years, like I said, so many new directors and storytellers sprouting all over the country. You know, we have a very big regional cinema also, South and East and West. apart from Hindi-speaking cinema. And it's really huge. And all those directors would get an opportunity to come and tell a story without having to be dependent on just the few major players, so to say, in Hindi cinema. I think that's extremely exciting. I read things now, and suddenly there's a new director making a small film. Suddenly a set of boys and girls have gotten together. And I think the next thing is the way the kids are watching films. They're watching them differently. They have comparisons internationally now. It's not just your own film. So I think that all is going to change the way story is told in India. So I think next 5-7 years, positively speaking, very exciting. It's nice to say that.
Sure.
But I think it's going to change the balance of power as far as filmmakers and film writers go.
David?
I mean, in some ways, I'll be interested to see, in which ways things kind of stay the same. It's like obviously there's a lot of talk going on at the moment about, should films be in theatres and blah, 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 and all this stuff that's been going on at Cannes. And obviously what we're in is a kind of transitional period.
Yeah.
You can feel these kind of these tectonic plates kind of crashing into each other, and stuff will change. And one of the things you hear, especially with streaming services and blah, 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 is that, it's like the shape may change, and there's limited series, and directors can make 6-hour movies and all this. And I have, I'm less concerned about where my movies play or on what kind of screen, blah, blah, blah. What I love more than anything else is the shape of the feature film. It's a movie that is about 2 hours long. I just love being able to tell a story in that length of time. I love being able to devote a lot of time to the making of it, the crafting of it. My great hope is just that whatever shape the distribution and the exhibition takes, that just the shape of the movie survives, because I love them.
I love the way he says 2 hours. We're still trying to get there, make a 2-hour film. Make 3-hour films. Yeah.
You got the 120-day shoots. I'd kill for one of those.
Do you feel like the world will become a smaller place in that there will be an exchange and a crossover? Will we see Brad in a Hindi movie, Shahrukh, you in a Chinese film? Do you feel like that is the future as well?
Not till I learn to dance and sing.
As long as I know. I think yes, most certainly. I think in the last 10 years itself, you have a lot of Indian actors going and being accepted, even if it's part of diversity angle that America has. But I think it's opening doors. He's from Australia. He's gone made films there. I'm sure if he likes India, he's visited here. He went for a long walk today. If he likes that walk,
that was a good walk.
It was a good walk. He may come and make a film here. It'll start off like that. Brad shot a film here. Some of the filmmakers will come to shoot film in India, but I think they will understand. They'll see, like we watch all their films and understand the kind of language they use. Yes, I think. I hate using this word, but this globalization. Would happen, most certainly.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, David. Have a great time while you're here in India. Brad, you have your work cut out for you on the next trip. Perhaps Shahrukh will show you a few dance moves.
Okay. Piano. I'm going to learn the piano from him.
Right.
I'll learn the one-hand piano. But really, thank you for being here, and wish you all the best with this film.
No,
genuinely.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you, Rajeev, for talking to us and talking about this film.
Thank you, Shahrukh. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks.